Crazy Camp Life, Votes, and Tribals. The life of a survivor is more than you see on TV. So if you need the scoop on island survival, crack a coconut, put on some rice, and let's spill the immunity. How are we doing? How are we doing today? It is crazy. Hey. I know. I was like caught up in that like promo again. And you know what gets to me on that is that it's just still funny to see us in cartoons.
Yeah.
So I laugh.
I'm always vibing to the theme song. I like it.
Thanks. Yeah. That's like an Adobe thing. I don't know. It's one of those free, no copyright kind of things. And I was like, yeah, that took me a while to find, but I wanted something that kind of gave us the feel. Because I mean, the Survivor intro song is just well, it's epic, right?
Yeah,
it's the thing.
It's still to this day will give me goosebumps.
Yeah, it's so good.
I've been like binging seasons, and I'll like at the beginning, I'm like, I said this on the previous episode. It's like every time I hear it, I get excited.
Yes.
Like I don't have that about a lot of things, but Survivor, when I hear the song, I don't know, it connects with something very deep and primal.
Yes. Same. That's so funny.
And I think they really did it justice this year. I think they like took some notes from Australia and said, we need to up our game. We need to get this going like better, because Australia's really got like their cinematography is epic. It's really good.
It is. Yes. So good.
Yeah.
Morning, Bobby. Welcome. We're so glad you're here. Dale is also hopping in to say hi. Dale, I always do that on his show, so he hops in and sees what we're up to over here. So I appreciate it very much. Mm-hmm. What did we think about last night?
Well, I was hoping that a bigger move would be made, but of course, it went exactly the way we thought it would go. So, no surprises, right? Alex, what do you think?
Well, I was thinking that this episode is really setting Emily up for the win.
Yes, it is.
You know, it's really setting her up to be the person who wins it. It was a boring episode. It was a predictable vote. They tried to mix it up, and there were some cool things about it. And I actually enjoyed the episode. I thought we'll talk about it. The boys, that was super funny. That was the funniest things in Survivor. There was some interesting gameplay going on. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Brucey goes home, idle in his pocket. And we all kind of saw it coming too, which is kind of the sad part. I guess maybe we didn't see him not playing it.
Mm-hmm.
I think we may all anticipated that it was a possibility considering his previous gameplay.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it wasn't a shocking vote. Nothing really happened this episode, except they were kind of building the case, like I said, for Emily of maybe winning the whole thing. What do you think, Brie?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a good episode in a lot of ways. I love Letters from Home. So for me, I thought it was really, really I think it's a touching moment, because you just want them to get that energy and fuel and love. And I mean, if we can't have them there in person, the Letters from Home are really, really important. But like, I guess I really felt for Jake. I have a lot on Jake. On Jake. I just, because, for me, I thought he would actually be gone this week. I figured if Bruce was smart, okay, and realized, I mean, first of all, he should have just played his idol, but there's always that thing, right? Whenever they split the votes, if you vote for the person that they're voting for, that can either put them into a tie situation or put like more votes on them, right? So you can have that, like, they're going to be like, we're going to put so many on this person and so many on that person. And at least it gives you that opportunity to not make it easy for them. Mm-hmm. Right. So he could have just voted for Jake, and then we would have had a tie. Right. So then they would have to revote, but there's always a possibility. Give yourself another vote. Give yourself another chance. Don't make it like done for yourself, and then don't walk out with an idol. It's a cute little trinket. Yes, now you're probably happy you have it sitting on your shelf at home, but didn't get you $1 million. So yeah. And Bobby says it was a 5 out of 10, 5.5 out of 10 for an overall episode. I found myself
probably distracted
a lot during it. Yeah.
I can read dyslexia, so I can.
Yeah.
I think Bruce probably didn't play it because he realized if if this vote didn't go his way, it was the next one, right? So he realized, like, hopefully this plan will work. Who's to say what was in his mind? But that's kind of what I thought. It was like, he's like, either way, I'm out. So I better make this decision now, because otherwise I have zero chance after I lose this idol.
Mm-hmm.
But he still should have played it. I hate when people go home with idols in their pocket.
Yeah.
Play it and not use it because it might recharge, and you never know what's going to happen in the modern age of Survivor.
Mm-hmm.
That like playing your advantage while you have it, and then just saying tomorrow is a brand new day, and who knows what could happen. Anything could happen, honestly. So,
True.
Protecting yourself in the moment, I think,
Yeah, he absolutely should have played it. I don't know what he was thinking. I mean, even his face, he was just like, yep. Like, as the names are read. But, I mean, kudos to Emily, because I just feel like she has consistently made the most of her situation out here. And it's just, every week I just root for her more and more. I was like, wow. I mean, everything she did was so strategic in this episode. If it wasn't for her in this episode, I feel like, it'd be definitely lower than a 5.5, but
Yeah.
it ended up really working out. We even got to see, how I'm a sucker for a good, emotional story, and Katurah got me too. I cried like multiple times, maybe because I watched the episode at 2:30 in the morning last night and I was overtired, but I cried like multiple times during the episode, not just at the family letters, but Katurah with the water, and even a little bit of tribal with Jake. I don't know what was going on with me last night. Who could say?
Yeah, I think the thing with Katurah and the water was like having that kind of panic attack. I think it gave Jeff more torches, first of all, because I liked the way he handled it. I liked the way he talked her through it. I liked that he was like, the whole tribe is here to support you and get you, if you want to try it, giving her that, like, you can do this. If you don't want to, it's okay as well. And so giving her options to what would make her feel the best. I loved that part of it. But, and I'm going to get a lot of hate for this, I thought the letter from home for her I just didn't get it. I didn't get it. I didn't get the tears. I didn't get like her whole thing. I don't know. I don't know why. Maybe because she didn't explain it enough, or she was like, I chose to be out of my mom's life for the last year, and like, but why? Like, don't just tell us a little nugget
Bree
and then
wanted
be
the
like,
tea.
like, I want the tea on that. Like, why did you do that? Like, she
Yeah.
was having problems, or maybe she didn't want to say anything bad about her mom, but then don't mention it. Don't, like, I don't know. To me, it was just really kind of like weird and didn't give me a full explanation. So I was like, like, I'm not feeling the dinosaur tears you're pouring out. I also am not sure what her game is like. Like, I don't know if you noticed this, but at Tribal, when they were someone was talking to Jake about, or Jake was talking, it was about being an attorney, and she was like, yeah, like, I totally understand that. I was like, no, you don't. What are you doing?
You don't know.
You don't know.
Well, I don't know how old Katurah is, but there's a growing trend, I would say, among Gen Z on particularly TikTok to go no contact with toxic family members. Whereas a Gen Xer like myself is just kind of taught, like, your family is your family and you take them no matter what. They could say anything and you just put up with it because that's your family.
Right.
And I feel like it's a different generation's way of looking at things. So, and she also said, I'm pretty sure she said something like her whole life has been sad and she didn't want to go into that sad place. So I could see that being a reason why she didn't want to talk about it and kind of bring up those feelings. Another would be, even though she's no contact with her mom, that doesn't mean she wants to like drag her on national television. So I think there are like a couple of different reasons for it. But yeah, I mean, I've been seeing it more and more on social media that people are separating themselves from family members that, don't make themselves feel good or valued or heard. So that's the only explanation I can think of, is if like I said, I don't remember how old she is, but I'm assuming she's pretty Gen Z, right? I mean, she's got to be like late 20s, right? How old do you think?
Yeah, she's well, she's actually 34.
Whoa,
I'm looking at
she's
that.
got a young
She's
vibe.
34. Yeah, she's got a young vibe.
But I do think that's got to be something like that,
I think you're right, though. It is, there's this thing, your family's your family, you respect your elders, but there is a new thing of like, hey, if these people are toxic or they're triggering you or like they're bringing up, I can understand that in a way. And she's even going through like, maybe that isn't the right thing. I feel conflicted about it. And you might have that where you're like in a group of people and people are so tapped into your emotions that they're like, something's going on with Katurah. And sometimes you just have to say the elephant in the room, even if it's like listen, this is going to be maybe helpful, and I don't want to say this. I'm going to look weak, but I have to, because otherwise it's going to be in the back of my mind this entire time. And you're going to be seeing that conflict in my eyes. You're going to be seeing that like hesitation or that trepidation, and you won't understand why. So this is why. So that's why I could totally understand that. The one thing I'll say about it though is she was Katurah she was saying, everybody loves Julie. Everybody loves Mama Julie. Everybody loves their mom more than anybody else. Literally, the previous commercial, she said she didn't talk to her mom. I was like, okay, wait a minute.
Yeah, that part was
like,
very interesting. I will say, like, at the water challenge, I mean, she was kind of saying, like, I don't know why. And just as a person who, has been anxious her whole life, I really related and empathized with her story.
Yep.
And I think that the emotions of what happened with the letter
Yes.
brought up more increased anxiety. Whereas if had that not happened, I mean, it's a little interesting that being no contact, like her mom chose to write that letter while she's in front of cameras, that producers decide. I don't love the decision all around. I don't think it was fair to Katurah from a production standpoint or from a family standpoint in any way. And then it increases her anxiety with the water. And different than how Jeff handled Brandon in the beginning. I do, like you were saying, I really like the way he handled it. And it ended up being a very triumphant thing in the end that she did jump in the water with her tribe. It went beyond the game. So I felt really emotional watching it. But that's what I would assume was the increased anxiety, because she was like, I don't understand. And it's like, well, yeah, you're digging up a lot of emotions and unexpected emotions. You didn't think you were going to have to dig up your trauma or whatever issues you have with your mom in the middle of a game. I would think her mom was probably the last person she was expecting to hear from. So
Yeah.
I'm going to say I mean, maybe she feels differently just on the outside. Didn't love that decision to just throw that in there with no warning to her. That was a lot.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that. I really didn't like that the producers did that. And if
Yeah.
if it is some sort of toxic relationship and something, I mean, she could just say it was an unhealthy place for me. And that's enough of an explanation. Like, don't need dirt and details.
Yeah.
But I thought it really did, like, it does lead up to like the rest of like how she's like did have like almost a panic attack, when she was up there, and I knew what she was feeling, right? I could see that like in her when she was in the challenge, like I could just see, like you could just feel it from her. And so the whole thing was just, it was interesting. The letters from home, I wasn't really connected to Emily's story of we're getting our first house, and
right.
I'm like,
I did kind of like that she said she might
shenanigans.
get married, though. It's just another example of
Yeah.
Emily moving herself forward. Like, I feel like the game
Yes.
is changing her from the inside out. And, maybe she played it up in the beginning and she's like, I know what makes good television. But to me, it feels authentic. And so when she was like, maybe I'm a wife, like maybe I'm going to get married, I was like, look at her go. But yeah, I mean, the house thing, it was like very emotional about it. But she also hasn't won anything. She hasn't eaten. Again, like, I just feel like everyone's emotions were running high, and like like things that don't seem like that big of a deal, I'm sure must like bring you to like full tears out, on the island.
Well, she did call it a hellscape when she was describing Survivor and being on the island. She called it her hellscape. So like
That's
that was a quote from her on that, which I thought was really, really funny.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about the challenge. The first challenge that they had. Okay, first of all, it's a challenge for babies. Okay, nothing about it was challenging. It's
This
like
thing?
you hop over three. Yeah, that was the end, right? It's this balance dexterity.
You're hopping
thing.
over things.
But you hop over 2 tables and then you go through one and then you climb under a rope. It's like, this is a baby challenge. Okay, there's nothing tough about this, in my opinion. And then, but it was really cool. I mean, it was a really cool challenge because Emily won it. She never thought she's going to win it. And there was that, when she won it, you saw in that moment, it was one of the, cutest, kind of moments. She like, just like literally is in pure shock and just starts shaking uncontrollably. And the look on her face was just priceless, classic, but really endearing too. And, so she wins unexpected. And then they get to go to the sanctuary. And we got to talk about this too. Is the sanctuary the only place that they can go forever now? Because it's
like
really kind of not. It's kind of annoying. You know what I mean? It's not
in
that
this one
great.
place.
It's
It's
okay.
all right, it's like a little tent, but,
Yeah.
yeah, and then Jeff gives her that, that choice of, picking people, and I always hate it, I mean, just because I know for myself, like, being put on the spot like that, where it's like, who do you like better? Who do you wanna take with you? Like, I wanna be everybody, like, there's part of me, that would be like, "Can I just not go?" And, like, they go, you know what I mean? Because
And
I
they've
never
done that too.
and I don't like
Someone's
to
done that.
disappoint anybody, but Drew crying and then Jeff's like, "You can take one more." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, no,"
Yeah, he's always like, "You get one," and he's like, "And
You
then you
get
get one
one
more."
more,
And then
and
this
then
time he's like, "And then you
you
get
get
one
one more.
more." And it's like,
Oh
I
yeah,
thought
that was a lot.
I thought Emily though did an amazing job picking the
Very
people.
smart, very
Mhm.
smart,
All girls, all guys. I mean, that I was like, that was
very
very
smart.
skillful, and I was really not expecting the cat pick too, and that was cool to see her kind of reaction. But yeah, what
Yeah.
do you guys think? You thought the picks that she made were brilliant. What do you think?
Very smart,
Yeah,
very
Yeah.
strategic
yeah,
too, and easily
yeah,
justifiable. The women all
mhm,
together
yeah,
with their families, and
yeah.
yeah, I mean, definitely smart and interesting to leave the boys on their own as well. I'll tell you what, it did make for great TV. It was very funny to see the difference between the two and what the guys were like the minute the girls were out of sight.
Lads
Hey,
holiday, right?
guys
That's
being
That's
dudes. That's
yeah,
that's what
dudes
us
being
dudes do when
yeah,
the
yeah.
girls are away.
the
We
boys be boyin'.
yeah. But we were saying it was a lot like Top Gun. It was like a Top Gun
It was
compilation
very funny.
montage. It was
Mhm.
really, and
Of
they had
course.
the 80s rock ballad, during it. That was
It
really
was
fun.
funny. They're, like, burping, farting, talking about bacon, flexing.
Oh my gosh.
Like, it was very, very funny to see. It would have
Yeah.
been I mean, it would have been interesting to see if they could have bonded, but no. Whereas the women, I feel, they genuinely like each other. I don't think they can, work together totally, but, yeah, the boys just Bruce and Jake just can't bond with Austin and Drew.
So I have a question for you guys on that because I think we really saw it at the sanctuary. Do you feel like Dee has been very cold lately? Like, doesn't have that warmth like to her to other people? Like I know she's like really tied in with Austin and Mama J, but like it just feel like I didn't feel a lot of warmth from her
No,
at the sanctuary.
ever since Kendra said her name, that was it. It was like a switch.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
not hanging on a pole for rice for the anymore. Yeah, I agree though, Brie. I mean, I didn't really like notice it in the moment, but you're saying it and I'm like, yeah, like I don't feel that warmth. Maybe she feels like Julie is taking that mama role, so she doesn't need to, do that. I don't know what it is, but yeah, ever since Kendra came for her, that was it.
Well,
Mhm.
you saw in this that Julie became more of the threat than Dee did. For whatever reason, that dynamic switched, and people are looking at Julie, and maybe it is because of the lie, right? That she's not a lawyer, right? That she said that she's just a single mom, and so people are really endeared to that. And so maybe that's if they knew she was a lawyer and who she really is, maybe they would see her as less of a threat because she's got her money, right? Lawyers are rich, right? But Dee's certainly warm to Austin. Ooh la la.
Ooh
Yeah,
la
that's
la.
right.
Yes,
I
she
called that. I
is.
said,
You
hey,
did?
there's a connection
I
there.
said
And
there's something
then
going
the preview for the
on.
next episode, I didn't expect that. I mean, that's interesting.
Not a
Yeah.
great not a smart idea on their part because they're already threats, and I feel like people catching wind, like, all right, it's not like the Big Brother house necessarily. I just, showmances are always gonna put a big target on their backs, and so
Yeah.
next week's, episode, I was like, "Uh-oh, what's going on here?"
You haven't heard anybody mention it though, but maybe they're saving it for the next episode that there's like a special connection there, right? But
Yeah.
Well, I think
yeah.
they're like really, coming into all of that right now with everything. I mean, those two, and I think that's probably why we're not seeing her as close. Maybe she's trying to maybe that's part of her plan, like Dee's plan to get to the end is she has to start removing herself. I think because we've seen it now. Mama J is always she's talking about is I have to be their best friend and I have to be their confidant and I have to be their mom and this whole thing, and then I have to stab them in the back, and I'm conflicted within, and you could see that in her.
Mhm.
But then like the previews just show her like time to start sharpening that knife. Let's go. But I think Dee is maybe kind of trying to figure out where she like what her plan is in moving herself away a little bit
Mhm.
so that it's easier for her, because I think the other ones like Caleb and Kelly and Kendra were easy votes for her. I'm really happy to be rid of you. And
Mhm.
now it's like I just want you, I can't, like now I'm losing friends here. Like
Mhm.
these people matter to me. I don't know, except for Jake. We have to talk about Jake. We still have to talk about
Yes.
Jake.
Yes.
But I
Well-
think that's kind of what that to me is what I'm seeing, is she's moving to endgame in her mind and getting separation.
Well, that was another one of the tear-jerking moments at the beginning of the episode when it was Drew and Julie at the beach, and Julie was saying, I'm acting like everybody's mama out here, and I'm being mom, and I'm a noble, she didn't say noble, but I'm a trustworthy, and I keep my word, and I'm a ride or die in person, and there is that conflict. I mean, I could see that, and then Drew even broke down too, and he was like, "This is really hard," and that was actually, it wasn't even fun, it was fun. It was a real moment, I was like, wow, you don't think. We're watching them on TV, we're criticizing them, we're giving our opinion in 2 cents, and it's a game, but people do build these really strong relationships. If you've ever done a trip like that, a retreat, I mean, you feel like you're going to be best friends with these people for the rest of your life, right? And then 2 weeks later, you're like, okay,
you're like,
you're
never
not,
talk to him again.
but in the moment, you're like,
yeah,
I love you, man.
Yeah.
So that was really endearing. For
Yeah.
them.
And I remember
Yeah.
seeing an interview with Mark Burnett early on in Survivor where he was, talking about his, idea for the show. And he was saying, for $1 million, like you would be so cutthroat against strangers. But what if I put you all together and you had to live and deal with harsh elements and you got to hear each other's stories? Then what is it like to try to compete against, for the $1 million? You see people throwing their game away all the time on loyalty of people they've only known for a few weeks. But that's so true. When I was young, my parents like signed me up for like a, like a youth, I don't know, retreat. I cried the whole weekend. I was like, everybody's my best friend. I literally like never talked to them again. But you really, you put people in that enclosed environment where you're sharing stories and, there's no cell phones or anything else. Definitely not when I was growing up. And you just, like you bond with these people. So, like it's great to see that Mark's, vision for the show 45 seasons ago is still going. Like you would think people would walk in and say, okay, I know what the show is and I'm not going to get sucked into this. I'm not going to get connected to people, but it happens every single time. And that just shows, human nature.
And it tears you down, right? Like I think even Emily was talking about it on how like this just tears you down and tears everything away. Or maybe it was Julie that talked about it, but it like you're stripped down to nothing, right?
Yeah.
And you realize what's important, but you also realize how dependent you are on each other and how you form these relationships. And that's like all you have is to build these relationships. So like it totally makes sense. And it's amazing that in 45 seasons we're still fascinated, at least I am fascinated with how the complexities of humans, right? And how we connect with each other and how we get along with each other and what we will do and how we will act. So that's like, that was the whole reason I wanted to watch the show in the beginning. But then it's also to see the triumphs. It's to see Kat jump in the water with her tribe and get those moments, or Noelle when she, finished and won that challenge last season. Things was last season, right? It was like, it's like, it's so those are moments that you just want to, because you see a hero, right? You see that you see the struggle and you see someone overcoming something and it's inspiring and it makes you feel like, maybe I can do anything too. And that's like, it's the whole magic of what the show is about. But I did learn one thing from this episode. I love this quote. He said, "I'm back in the game." Jake, you're not back in the game. And 2 seconds later, we hear Drew saying, he's like Charlie Brown.
Right.
So my discovery was I will never hire Jake as my attorney.
I was about to say, if Jake is your attorney, you might be in a little bit of trouble.
I feel so bad.
He's
getting such a raw deal. Like he's got Emily had a raw deal in the beginning, but was able to turn it around. Like he said, he just cannot find his footing. And it's unfortunate because he's entertaining and he's got a lot of heart and he really wants to be out there. He's got the great story of losing the weight and, trying to get in shape, especially for the show. And it's just like everything that could go wrong is going wrong. Like, I want him to get a second chance. You know, I want him, like, can he play the game with people that want to play with him? But he's funny. I'm not a mobster. What am I, a mobster?
Well, he thinks he's the Departed or
What do you
something.
think? Yeah, he thinks he's
a
departed.
goon.
What
That's
am I, a
what Drew was calling
That
him.
was I know,
and
that was
Drew
hilarious.
threw on the Boston accent too.
It
which I
was,
thought
it was
hysterical.
funny though. It was funny.
Yeah. I mean,
To wrap up your point though, Brie, you know,
Yeah.
and you've seen this in other seasons where there's the villain. There's the guy who's it's Russell, right? He's so cutthroat. He plays an amazing game on the surface, but Jeff even said it at the end, they have to vote for you. They have to like you.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that's so, I think, emotionally taxing for people. It's one thing to go out there and be cutthroat, but you can be cutthroat, but if you get to the end and everybody hates you, it doesn't work. You don't win. You're not the sole survivor. So you have to connect emotionally. And I think that's become more important over time. That emotional connection. And I think it's always been important, but you know, now like that's where Julie is really having the conflict, is like the connections are real. These things are real to her. The emotions are real out there. And you have to actually be that person to win it too. You have to be the person who does connect the deepest with people. Think of Sarah, police officer Sarah.
Yes.
She won that season because she made those really deep connections. And at the end, they respected that. So maybe Julie, maybe, you know, Dee maybe isn't, maybe she's so likable and she's enigmatic and, you know, and an athlete and people like her and she's got that magnetic, you know, personality, but maybe she isn't able to build those really, really deep relationships like Julie is, which maybe people are realizing that over time. Right.
And that's why they see Julie as the bigger threat, because they're like, hold on a minute. Right. Everybody likes her.
Julie.
And yeah. And I mean, she's worried that she's gonna, you know, people are gonna hate her, just like her. But I just can't imagine, you know, anybody walking away from it being like, you know, Julie sucks. You know, like, I just don't think so. And I could understand in the moment feeling that guilt, but you're right that jury management is so important. I mean, looking at a player,
and that's
like
what she was doing though.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but like,
no,
like, come on. Like, I love Julie. I think she's great. And I had her as a goat at the beginning. So, I mean, she's sticking with it and getting through it, but she's definitely turned it more powerful. I didn't expect her to do so well in the challenges.
Same.
I didn't expect her to have all these really deep connections. Good on her. But I when she was saying that at Tribal, right, I kept thinking to myself, because I think a lot of it was to do with Kendra. Right. Because we have to, that was a whole other thing, right? The whole Kendra face during the whole Tribal. I mean, she had it. Oh my God. So I think, and then she's like, and Julie was like, I can't even look over there. I can't even. Right. And I'm wondering if that speech wasn't really playing to the jury or the people that are going to be on the jury. Right. Totally. Like, I think there was more intent there than just saying, I'm really struggling with this. I think there's also that. I want you guys to know that I don't really want to stab you in the back, but I just had to, you know?
Right. That's funny.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you look at the core four, Austin, Drew, Dee, and Julie, each one of them plays their role, right? And Julie's role was to be kind of the one that's low key, that's under the radar, that gets in good with everybody. And the one that they wouldn't expect, you know, and you can expect that kind of behavior from the other ones because they're a little bit younger and more dynamic, and Drew and Austin, they're players, you know. So it's like, it's the blindsidedness of the Julie one that I think is really hurting. And two, she's a female, and then the one that she felt really bad about were also two females. So I can't speak to that. I don't know what that means, but you know, maybe there's something to that, right? That there's a female connection there as women, and there's a line there that you don't cross. I wouldn't know what that line, but you know what I mean by that, right? So
no, yeah, but I mean, that's what when they were talking about the all female alliance, that, you know, that episode that we were recapping, I was saying never going to happen because they always turn on each other and they always vote each other out, and it's so annoying. It drives me crazy. You think about a lot of like iconic duos in Survivor or in Big Brother, and it's like they're almost always male, and it's like the women just constantly vote each other out. And I'm sure Julie would have liked to have seen the women make it further, but it's like one by one, there they go. I mean, they got Bruce out, but you know, Katura's probably not making it to the end. If they're smart, they'll get, you know, Emily out.
I think if you're smart, you bring Katura.
I mean, yes.
To be honest.
Yes. But I'm curious, like, what ends up happening? Like, does the core four really stay true to 5 or 4? That's going to be very interesting. But yeah, I mean, like, I feel like as a woman in the game these days, like, every time the topic of a women's alliance comes up, it's like viewers at home are like, sure, let me see it. When? I'm not saying you need to make an alliance just based on that, but they bring it up and then they immediately flush it down
Well,
the
we
toilet.
have a 4-3 now. So we have 4 women left.
Can they please?
Can they please? I think this, and I want to get, I want to get into like, before we're done today, I want us to go through like how we see them. I have questions for like
Yeah.
each player on the end.
Great.
But
Let's go.
I wanted it, we were talking about this whole like Julie talking about how she's, you know, conflicted and this is hard for her. And she was just trying to be honest with everybody about how she was feeling. I thought it was really interesting. The Emily situation. I called it like 2 truths and a lie, because she's like, Jake, I gotta talk to you. Man, they are voting you out, right? I have to be honest with him. And then she goes over to Bruce, man, they, you know, they're gonna vote you out and we gotta do something. And then a lie, right? We're gonna vote Julie and I gotta know. And I know that was her plan. Like, it would have just been like, y'all should have really done that and just voted Julie out, because that would have been the smart.
That would have been actually so good. I would have felt bad, but that would have been good. And also, can anybody open their eyes and be like, why is Emily still here? Like, I can't get over it, especially the way she orchestrated this vote. Like, yeah, I think the core 4 needs to be broken up, but if they're not careful, like, she's going to go to the end and she is going to win. I cannot see anyone beating her, like, the way she's turned everything around. And I can't believe nobody's like, hold on a minute. To me, she's like the clear winner.
I think the core 4 think like, oh, she'll be an easy one to vote off. But, you know, we talked about her getting in with Drew and Austin. I felt like she couldn't vote off Julie because then that would cut her off from the core 4.
Yes, she couldn't do it.
And I think the next vote probably would have been Emily, because then everybody would have said, wow, she's the biggest threat in this game.
She made a big move and she made
a big move and nobody's really making, nobody's really making big moves. The core 4, I think the reason that they're all don't want to make each other targets is because they've all kind of made the decision not to play an outstanding game, like not to separate themselves from the group and make these kind of decisions on their own. So none of them are really standing out. That's why Julie and the interpersonal relationships are so, you know, valued or like seen as threatening, is because there aren't gameplay moves that are really distinguishing the core 4 from each other. But Emily, I mean, we talked about Julie maintaining the journey you know, patting what do you call it? Like the jury, right? Like,
pandering to the
jury
jury
management. Jury management, right? We talked about Julie doing jury management. I think Emily, right, is doing the best out of the jury management, because she's like, I'm not trying to make these people feel like outcasts. I'm trying to make them feel like a real human being. Tell them what's up a little bit, maybe deceive them a little bit. But she's doing, I mean, she probably does have Jake and Drews. Yeah. And Caleb. Yeah.
She learned it from Caleb. Caleb was the one that pulled her aside and gave her the truth and said, hey, you know, you're screwing up your game and here's how you fix it. And so like, she learned from that. Like, she's a quick learn. Like, I like that about her. But if I'm looking at Emily and I want an absolute positive, I'm going to make it to the end and win this thing, why would I not throw Julie under the bus? I mean, you would have Bruce and Jake and Kat. You're going to beat all of them hands down. There's not even a chance those 3 can win.
They said it at the beginning, though, that Jake and Bruce, that, you know, they just don't know how to work together.
No.
Right. And like, I just feel like Emily just, you know, she's the data analysis. She looks at like what's probable, and like the core 4 are going to stick together. That is like almost a 100% certainty. And then her just only job is just to have a close enough relationship with Drew to say that, hey, either Julie or Dee is too big of a threat. And then, you know, but I don't think that any of the core 4 would really want to take Emily, though. Because she's, like I said, she has a differentiated game, but her game is pretty low key. And I actually think if she makes it to the end, I don't think she deserves to win, to be honest, because she's being dragged by the core 4. She's, yes, the last person of Lulu, but that is a weak position, right?
Yeah.
That's not like, you shouldn't be proud, like, oh, as the last of Lulu. Well, that's not really a benefit. She got dragged by core 4. She maybe made some big moves in the game, but I think that her game is more valued now. Like, people look at her game as like, wow, this is an amazing game because she did come up from the bottom. She wasn't the ultimate underdog. She was able to choose the right alliance to team up with. But I think being in control of the game, like a Drew or an Austin or a Julie or a Dee, I think that's a more powerful position. I think that's a better Survivor game than Emily's game. But because she's an outlier, because she's differentiated in herself, people think, oh, wow, she's playing a great game. And she is, but I just don't think being dragged by the core four all the way to the end. I think she could win, but I don't think she should win against any one of those four people because they dominated and controlled this game.
They really did. And I think that if anybody who's, you know, in this season competing is frustrated with the core four running it all the way to the end, I feel like all these other players, especially from the two other tribes, need to look at themselves because they did not work well together. They did not have the loyalty to each other. They were willing to flip on each other. And it's like that core four from the very beginning worked together. It's like you said about Jake and Bruce. I'm like, guys, why can't we come together? I mean, what are we doing here? You know, the women's alliance couldn't come together. Lulu was a hot mess. Bella was, you know, Katurah hated Bruce, and there's all these other issues. And meanwhile, the Reba tribes just, I mean, other than Jay, Maya, and Sifu, those four have just been together from the beginning. And I feel like everyone else's inability to come together and agree on literally anything or make a move together is their own downfall. Like, I don't even know if the core four is as strong as we see them. It's just nobody else can work together. So yeah, they come out looking really good. I mean, there's no other loyalty out there really. Like, I can't even think of anything.
Who are we picking as the first of the core four to go? Because we know someone's going to go. Who's your prediction that it will be?
It seems like Julie, because Austin and Dee are so tight. You have Drew, who's tight with Austin. That's his main alliance. You pull in Emily. That's four right there. Julie's the odd person out. You know, it seems like she would be the first to go and is seen as the biggest threat. I don't know. Can Austin, you know, cut Dee's tie if he feels that and I don't think so. You know, but we said this before, Austin probably feels like he's playing the best game because he has had the immunities.
Yeah.
He's had all the advantages. He just won the last immunity challenge, right? And he could go on a run here all the way to the end.
And he caught fish.
You're saying he finally earned his little Aussie.
Now he really is.
That's
funny. Well, I mean, I do think it's going to be one of the women. Well, it's definitely better for Emily because of her relationship with Drew and Austin. And, you know, there's an argument either way. There's the fact that Julie is so likable. And there's the other fact that Austin is never writing Dee's name down. So they may need to just blindside her and take her out. I think that it would be one of them before the guys, even though I think leaving Drew and Austin together is very dangerous too. But it feels like a Dee or Julie kind of vote. And yeah, Austin could definitely run to the end with Bruce being out now. And, you know, maybe people getting, you know, more like even Julie Lay, she didn't perform quite as well as we've obviously seen her in the past. So very easy for Austin to go on a run. And he has a very good case to win because even though he hasn't done anything too outward, he's such a threat. And he was able to minimize that threat almost the entire game. Like, I can't believe the people are like, this guy's got to go. Like, what are we doing? We're picking the dumbest people to vote out. It makes me so mad. But yeah, one of the girls. What do you think, Brie?
Well, I really wanted to look at like who we think can get to the end because I do like that Austin is like pushing himself, but just at the right time. Like he won this immunity. He does have, I think Drew has a lot of stuff too, but I think Drew's getting too big for his britches. I think that might be the thing that like, because I think Dee could cut Austin, but I don't think Austin would cut Dee, to be honest with you. I think Dee is like, I'm winning this for me, and I think you're awesome. And
and we'll talk after.
But
you gotta go. Yeah,
I gotta go, man. I can't
100%.
have you here.
Yeah.
So I think there's that going on. And I think Drew gets too big for his britches. We saw it. Like even Jake was like, what do you think you are, God, like God's gift to us or to me or whatever? And just you know, he's getting pompous, as I would like to say. You know, he's just getting a little too much, too big for his britches.
Yes.
And so I think that'll be a problem. I think maybe Drew would be the first to go. I think because I know that Austin and Drew are really tight, but Dee will manipulate Austin.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We could see they're like laying out on the beach and it's kind of dark and they're talking. I know. I agree. I don't know what's going to happen next week with the two of them, but I definitely think Dee and Austin and their dynamic is going to play a big role in what ends up happening.
Yeah.
So who do you think the vote would be then? So, because it's not going to be Emily. Emily doesn't want to vote Drew out.
No, she's going to vote for one of the, well, she would love to vote for one.
It would have to be Jake, Dee, Julie, Kat.
Well, Jake, I think he'll go before that. So I think to get
I'm gonna
Drew
roll my
out,
eyes.
it'll be
Don't vote him out. It's a wasted
Dee,
vote.
Kat,
Yeah.
and Julie.
Versus Emily and Drew.
Yeah.
And Austin. Yeah.
And I mean,
Kat and Julie and Austin.
it's going to be interesting to see who wins immunity as well. You know, I mean, the thing about Austin and his idols and his individual immunity, everything has happened in his favor with really great timing, a little bit of luck and really great timing. And so he's going to be very hard to get out. And he can play an idol for, I mean, if let's say he wins individual immunity again, he can play the idol for D or any of them. I mean, he can protect that for until 5, right? Right. They can play anything until 5. So
yes,
it's going to be very hard to take the swing at them, especially with,
they can't see it
idol
coming.
safety without power. Like there's still a lot of factors in place. I think that Julie is probably, if they're going to take a shot at the 4, like that's going to be their easiest path if they're going to take the shot. But it'll be interesting. If they vote out Jake next week, I'm going to riot when we come in here to do this episode. I'm going to get so mad. Stop voting out people like Kendra and Jake or don't vote out Kat. But the other thing is like, do you want to be them kind of being just dragged to the end because you're,
right.
Yes,
you're not doing anything? Like that doesn't feel good either. Like you're going to sit in the final 3 and like, what are you possibly going to be able to say? So it's just unfortunate.
I don't care. I want to make it to the end. I don't care.
You're like,
listen,
get me to second so I can have the second place. Yes, I can have the second place runner-up.
Right.
Money.
Like I'm going to, and I made it the whole time.
You're like, listen, I'm not going to win, but can I have the runner-up money, please? Yeah, of course. Definitely. Third feels bad.
Exactly. And then, you just, the longer you last, the better. I mean, to me, coming in second or third, if there's final 3, I'm fine with that. Like Carolyn didn't get any votes and she's doing a whole ton of stuff now. And you know what I mean? Like it's just how long you want to stay. So let's run through the players really quickly.
Sure.
My questions are 2 things. Can they get to the end and can they win?
Okay. This is fun.
All right. So first I want to talk about Kat. Can she get to the end and can she win?
Yes and no.
Yes and no. She's probably the biggest no offense, Kat, but no, she cannot win.
No. She won't even get a vote.
Nothing she's done. Yeah, nothing.
No. Nope.
Yeah. Okay, what about Jake?
Alex, go ahead.
I don't see him getting to the end, and I don't see him getting any votes.
Yeah. Unfortunately, yeah, I'll agree.
Yeah.
Boo.
Yeah, no path forward for Jake.
Don't think so.
No path forward for Jake. All right.
Don't think so.
What about Mama J?
Yeah.
Yes and yes.
Yes and yes. Yeah.
I feel like everyone else is going to be a yes. Let's find out, though.
Right.
Keep going.
Yeah. Oh, I should put this up here. Bruce was a complete fool for what he did, and what a fool he is to take the knife and stab himself. Yeah, that was agreed.
I will say that Bruce leaving with the idol is the definition of Katura saying Bruce be Brucin'. It's just so Bruce.
Yeah.
It's so Bruce to have the ego to not play the idol. And it's like he showed exactly who everyone has says he is. And even though he's tried to say, that's not who I am, it's like, that's exactly who you are. I can't believe he didn't. Whenever anybody leaves with the idol, I'm like, you got to be kidding me, man. Just live for another day. Oh my God.
He gave me such Michael Scott vibes again this episode. I swear, just rewatch it and look at him as Michael Scott. I swear. And like, that's how Michael Scott would play. He would go tell a lie just because he like wants to play and then immediately renege it.
Why did he tell Katura it was he should have just kept it going?
Okay. That lie was a bad lie. Like you would want to lie to people to tell them I'm 100% playing my idol at tribal. So you better not vote for me because we're going to put votes on somebody else and they're going to go home. You don't tell them that you don't have an idol because then that guarantees that you must play the idol. Like the lie was a horrible lie. It wasn't even
good. And if he was going to do it,
it's not strategic.
No,
then you have to play the idol. Yeah.
Yes. He needed to put it into motion the minute Kelly left. Like the minute she left, he needed to have his head in his hands, like so upset. And everyone's like, listen, I know you're upset that she's leaving. He's like, yeah, it's a lot more than that. Like you could have been really setting that up, but you waited another vote. And then you're like, oh, by the way, it's like, what is this? Yeah. So Michael Scott, like this comparison, I never saw it until you said it. And now I can't unsee it.
That's crazy.
It's so funny.
And even but even when Jake was on the beach, and we could talk about Jake when, he's like, I just feel dumb. Like I just feel out of the loop.
Yeah.
Like I just feel like I don't understand things. And like, maybe he became a lawyer because maybe he had some kind of wanting to, set an aspirational intellectual goal for himself to prove that he isn't a dunce, or you know what I mean? And then he was on the beach kind of crying, and Bruce came over and he's just like, dude, you're not dumb. You passed the bar, like you should be proud. And then Bruce is like, I'm still voting for him. You know, he's like, screw this
Right?
guy. 2 seconds later, which was funny. But yeah. All right.
Who's
Next
next on the
person.
list? Yeah,
All
who's
right,
next?
next person. So we think Julie could get to the end and win.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah,
100%.
100%. What about Drew?
Oh yeah. I definitely make it into the end.
Yeah,
It'll
he
be
can make
up to
it.
him to see if he can sway enough votes, but he's not really playing a very good game, differentiated at all. He seems to think he's in control, but I don't know if anybody else sees him that way, right?
I think he can make it to the end. I don't think he can win.
Yeah.
I can't. I mean, he'd have to go up against literally Katura and Jake. He can't win in any other scenario. I don't think right now. Right now, he doesn't beat any of the others.
Well, I think if he went to the end with Austin, he'd be like, listen, Austin, I like you, but I'm obviously the brains of this operation. And it would be his job to show that Austin had really nothing to do with it and that he was the 100% in control of all strategy. And if he could get both Dee and Julie out, maybe he'd give that case. But if any of those women go with them, no way.
I don't think if Dee's sitting on the jury, as long as Austin didn't backstab her, because I could see Dee being a little bit of a bitter jury member, I think sure her vote definitely goes.
What I do? No.
She put herself in the spotlight. Here we
I
are.
just hit something. I changed something. What did I
Hey,
do? I was
whoa.
like, whoa, here we
We were
are.
doing the Survivor Shuffle. Here we are.
That was like that was Drew in the
That's
background pushing buttons on me.
Drop your buffs.
Drop your bumps, right? Oh my god.
I'm in the middle now.
I think the problem with Drew is if he comes off, if he makes it to final treble, I think he's gonna come off as arrogant. I think he's really, and I worry because we've seen so many of his comments in the background now, like him just, being a smartass basically and just saying all this stuff. I think that'll come across and he won't get the votes just for that alone. But then I also don't think he has like as good of a game as say Julie or Emily, honestly.
No, if you're going to be egotistical in the end, you got to be able to back it up. And a great example is Jag's final 2 speech in Big Brother. It was such a risky move, but he, as they say, ate and left no crumbs. He absolutely dominated a lot of the season, granted against people who were not nearly as strong as him, but that ego, even though it rubbed people the wrong way, you couldn't deny what a winning streak he went on. And so he was able to turn around. I don't think that Drew has enough to back up an ego if he comes out, kind of arrogant towards the end. I don't think his jury management is great. It's okay. It's not amazing. Other people are doing it better. So I just don't think it'll work for him in the end. I don't know. I don't know that anyone sees him as being like the winner of, of their season.
We said this at the beginning too. It's one to be the intellectual, nerdy type of guy, but you can't also be the arrogant jerk.
Nope.
Like you got to be the Cochran. You got to be, I'm the underdog. I came out here. I'm a lengthy. I'm not, I'm a nerd. I was never a bro, but I made these relationships, and I'm not.
He's a great example.
I changed, right?
Yeah.
So,
Cochran's a great example. Ian from Big Brother, great example of like nerdy people who are able to get far. I'm thinking of like Spencer, who played Survivor, who was kind of nerdy, but he also was a little arrogant. And it just, and I liked, by the way, I liked Spencer. Spencer was one of my favorite players from that season, but he just sometimes rubbed people the wrong way. And so it didn't work. But that's a good point. If you're going to play that nerdy intellectual role, it doesn't work if you act like you're smarter than everybody or you're talking, just in general.
No Cochran, that's for sure.
No, Cochran's one of my favorite players ever. He's so great.
Yeah.
But he played the nerdy
Spencer
guy.
Though. Yeah. And I didn't like Spencer actually the second watch.
Really? Maybe I need to go back.
I wasn't a big fan.
I don't know why.
I liked him at the time. Like I said,
I did too.
I said he was one of my favorite players. I rewatched it. I was like, what do I like about this guy?
Like, kind of
he's
a jerk.
Okay.
No, now I gotta go rewatch and see if it holds up for me. But at the time, I was like really disappointed that he didn't make it further. But that's a good point about kind of the people who play that intellectual game.
Yeah, because he didn't make big moves with it. He had a big brain, didn't do anything big with it. Really, that you know what I mean? To be honest.
True.
And so, I think that comes along. I think to your point, Alex, about, I thought I liked him. And when I watched him, I liked him. And then I gone back to watch it. I think we look at Survivor through a different lens these days, right? So if we're going back, because all of us, I went back and watched everything. I've watched all these episodes way too many times. And I look at them differently. And I do like people differently now than I did back then. And then there's just Russell, who I've never liked and I won't ever like, but that's okay. But I think we see it differently now. We've seen, and I was thinking this last night when I was watching, like how these guys were playing, especially with Kat and a little bit with Emily and definitely with Jake. But when we see these returning players come back, it's like watching amateurs versus pros. And I kept thinking of Sandra and like none of this would just all roll off her back and she wouldn't care. And she'd just find ways to tear up everything and get into it and make sure she was, it's as long as it's not me kind of a thing. And I think there's just a whole different attitude when they come back and play again, especially those that are so seasoned at it. Right. We just see how masterful they become and all of these little things that they're doing now as amateurs on the show. Like, this is just peanuts to the ones that are, you know what I mean? Like, it's just nothing compared to what these pros can do that have been doing Survivor for so long. And I think we look at them, we analyze them differently because we've seen over the years and all of the episodes how certain things work and certain things don't work. And that's why we get so frustrated. We're like, you don't go home with an idol in your pocket.
Yeah, come on.
You don't like pay attention. How does Jake not see? Like, at this point, like I'm looking at it from his eyes saying, I keep getting votes every single week. I'm always the backup target. No one is telling me anything. I must be playing a really crap game. Like, you have to know that. Like, even if you've never played before.
Instead, he's like, I'm back, baby.
I know.
Like, well, you're not anywhere. So you got to get somewhere. You got to get someone. And the thing is, there's such an opportunity for cracks right now. I mean, you know, you have nothing to lose. It's like you have nothing to lose. You have no alliance. You have no information. You're getting votes every week. You might as well try to drive the wedge in the core four. And if you go out swinging. But instead, you go out nodding your head like, yeah, I'll do anything. But, like him and Katura. And it's like, guys, I mean, especially him. He's on his way out. He might as well make, you know, an attempt to do something. All these like probably all-stars are sitting at home like, oh my God. They're like, these kids, these noobs, like, what are you doing?
And there's no excuse for it because you got 44 episodes, 44 seasons.
Yeah, there's no excuse.
There's a pro book out there.
You super fans going home with idols in your pocket. You guys letting an alliance of four just run to the end when you've seen it all the way since the merge. Come on. They've been talking about the core four since the merge. Oh my God. I guess, you know, when you're in the game, I get it. When you're in there, it's harder than you thought. It's more complicated. You get tunnel vision, you mess up, but yeah, some people are making some real big missteps this season. So when we do our final recap after the finale, where I told you we were going to do, right, like who's an all-star, who gets a second chance, some of these people, no.
Yes, I agree.
No.
No. All right, let's run through our last three. We've got Austin, D, and Emily.
Yep.
What do we think about Austin? Can he win? I mean, we think he might make the end.
Yes and yes, for sure. I think he can definitely win. Again, it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see what he does towards the end and if he's really willing to be bold. I think that the fact that he's not bold is a choice. Like I said, I think he's worked all season to lower his threat level. He wanted that sandwich more than anything in the world over the advantage. He doesn't want to be looked at as a threat because if he is, he's on his way out. So I think he can use that, you know, to some extent in front of the jury, coupled with a lot of wins toward the end. I think he could win. I don't think it'll be the most amazing win. I don't think it'll be, you know, but, you know, it's good. It's solid.
Inspiring win ever.
Yeah, it's good, though. It's solid.
And what's his story? He's an MBA student. He's a good-looking guy.
He's a lot smarter than people give him credit for. So
true. A lot smarter than people give him credit for.
Does it all come together?
I think he could go on a run, win every single immunity till the end. But like I said, I don't think people even respect the immunity win anymore. In some ways, they respect the people who don't win immunity but get to the end regardless. And they look at that as better than winning the immunities. Because it's like, oh, being physical, being a strong young guy, cool. Like, that's a given, right? Mm-hmm. But a lot of these have been puzzle-based or dexterity-based, not like physical. Like, I like this challenge. This was a new challenge. They've never done this one before, I don't think. It was really cool. I liked the position that they were in. And my favorite challenge is always the endurance challenges.
Oh, yeah.
But you haven't seen a lot of those in this season. So he might not be able to go on that immunity run if they keep them these kind of balancing or dexterity challenges that they've been doing a lot this season.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. Emily, maybe it's Emily, going on a puzzle win, right? Puzzle streak.
Yeah,
maybe.
What do we think? Do we think Emily can get to the end?
100%. Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
I feel like it's set up for her. I feel like if she wins, it's exactly, the producers are like, yes, this is such a good story. This lone person from Lulu making it to the end. And, I feel like in this transformation that she's had a bit out there, like it feels like her season, at least right now. Maybe that changes.
Well, I could feel too Caleb going up, the last person, during the final tribal council, and
Yeah.
he really gives the best sales pitch for Emily ever.
Ah,
And it like ends with a big bang of Caleb
great
being like,
point.
she is the sole survivor,
Well,
and
Caleb
she's
is
like,
influential, and him sitting on the jury, for her,
yeah,
I feel like he would be so happy to see her at the end. And I think even
yeah,
forget, like, I mean, yes, the final speech, but even just sitting around Ponderosa and talking about it, like,
true,
Caleb is extremely influential.
true.
And, I think that, so far everybody on the jury really likes him. And so I think he's going to have a lot to do with what happens in the end.
That's a good point, the
100%.
Ponderosa element of it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because they're hanging out and everybody who doesn't like
yeah,
Caleb, he's smiling
right.
and he's happy and I think he could really sway people towards Emily. If someone was on the fence, I could see that final jury speech being like, "You know what? I wasn't sure and I am going to go that way." But yeah,
Yeah.
him being in the jury and her being in the final 3 is a very interesting aspect I didn't quite think of until you brought it up.
Yeah, I think it's going to totally play in her favor.
Yeah.
And I think finally I wanted to wrap us up because I do want to get to one quick thing before
Yeah.
we go. I think Dee's letter from home is, I talked about her being a little cold earlier and like distancing herself a little bit. I think that letter from home, because you could hear it in her voice when she was reading it. I think it just reinforced the fact that I am here for me. I am doing this to
Yep.
win this. I
Yep.
don't care about romance and friendships or anything else. And so I'm going to be really laser focused. And I
Mhm.
think we might see Dee come on really strong. Don't forget, she is a challenge beast. She can do well
Yeah,
in
absolutely.
challenges. And I think she did take a back seat and like wanted to see how things would play, knew she was in a safe position until her name came up with Kendra gone. And like, I think she's still like pulling a lot of the strings in the background.
Mhm.
And I think she'll cut Austin in a heartbeat. But
Mm,
I don't think she'll cut Mama J. And I think what
mm,
her thing will be is I know that she is loved and I loved her too. And I could not take her out of this. I had to bring her with
Mhm.
me. But the decisions were mine. I think she'll have enough
Yeah.
information or enough like things that she has done to say, I know you love her, but this is how I got it done. Like I loved her
Right.
too. I
Right.
think there's that. So I can see her maybe bringing her and Dee trying to beat her. Yeah.
Mhm.
But
I
Austin, I'm
wouldn't.
sorry, bud. You're out.
Yeah, I wouldn't think of Julie as much of a target if it wasn't for this episode, but I could see Julie and Dee going to the end. Julie thinking, "Hey, I'm going to say that I was actually the brains behind this operation,"
Mhm.
and then Julie saying, "Actually, I'm an attorney. I played a much smarter game than people realized."
Mhm.
And yeah, I maybe let you drive the boat in some situations, but I was in full control of this too. And to say I'm like a dummy is obviously not true. I'm an attorney,
Yeah.
and she has but I mean, both of them great stories. Dee's, second generation American or first generation American,
Yeah,
living the
yeah.
American dream. And she's, maybe because she's had that personal family struggle, will be more cutthroat than these other people who maybe, value, so
Mhm.
I agree with you, Brie. I agree. But I just think if she does bring Julie to the end,
Be
I was
tough.
thinking, would she reveal her, her attorneyness? But if it's a game of, brain versus brain, then she's definitely going
She
to bring it
will.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
100% she's going to bring that up. And I actually last week was talking about Julie being a threat, and because we've seen her like come in second in challenges 2 times in a row to Bruce, and their endurance are tough ones. They were like things that she was like just shined. I was like so surprised by it. And I actually wrote that, like she posted something on Instagram and I wrote it and she wrote back and it was appreciated that. So like I put you in that's what we talked about on the podcast. I put you in that, like, now you're a real like legitimate challenge threat.
Mhm.
And so I think we'll see that because there's always going to be a challenge, I think, still to come that's going to be endurance. That we should see a puzzle, we should see an endurance, and then we should see that one that they've been closing with the balls going around. There's a name for it and I can't
Yeah.
remember it.
Mhm.
Those are the ones that we should see. There should be one of each of those coming up.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Next week I want to talk about our dream teams and how we've been picking people, and we had picked our people at the end. So I'm going to show us who we picked next week, see if any of them have made it through, what we're going to be doing, how we're going to, how we see them at the end, and
Mhm.
who we pick, and I think that'll be a lot of fun. I did want to remind everybody, if you are watching this, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. If we get 100 subscribers, Alex is going to apply to be on Survivor. And we want that to happen as much as possible. So please subscribe and like and leave us comments and tell us what you think of Survivor this season and who your favorite is and who your least favorite is. I think that's always fun too. Who's the villain to you this season? So, right? We don't have a real villain, but I think, Drew's like edging his way in there a little bit. This whole Jake and Drew thing. So. Final thoughts as we wrap things up?
I'm hoping that something very interesting happens next week and we just don't do the same old as usual, which would be the Jake vote. Please don't do the Jake vote next week. If you want to do it, fine, but not next week, okay? Because it's been a little predictable lately with Kendra, Bruce, and then maybe Jake.
On this, Jeff said, when you're at the carnival eating a scone.
Yeah, what the heck
was he? What the
what
heck?
A great line!
Bougie carnival are you going to with her?
What kind of carnival have you seen this?
What kind of carnival are you seeing, Jeff?
Yeah. So Jeff is a little bit. I think he's been on the island too long.
He's
going to some
out
bougie.
In the sun too. They left him out in the sun.
They did leave him out. He's getting mellower. I'm giving him. I liked him this time though. I think I gave him the extra 5 torches just because he really, he really came through for Kat and just some other things. And he did call out when we got to tribal. He did call out that things felt different in the room, like the energy was different, and I like that. Like I want you to tell me what the energy feels like in there. I want you to tell us and bring us in a little bit more so we have an understanding. Like if you could feel it, let us know so we can experience part of that too. And my final note on this whole episode was I want to see how many memes we get from Kendra's face. That's what I want to know.
She is expressive, if nothing else.
Yes, but man, she was a treat during that tribal council.
She was,
and I just thought it was funny, and I shout out to her because she's a riot. But man, she was bringing it during that. So I couldn't even tell who she was pissed at. She just gave that face to everybody.
She is something else. She must have gotten cast just based on those facial expressions because through the whole show, she's never, dull. That's for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it for us. We will see you guys next week. Thanks for hanging out with us. Make sure you subscribe and go follow us on all the places, wherever you find us. We'll see you. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.